guest experienced a horrible accident while she was kayaking in Chile. Her near-death experience led her to finding new meaning for her life. And here to tell us about her miraculous story, would you please welcome New York Times best-selling author To Heaven and Back, Dr. Mary Neal. Mary, it is an honor to meet you.
It is my privilege.
No, it's really my privilege. I want to get to some of the story quickly. Is it okay if I kind of just preface the beginning part by saying you were kayaking, you had an accident, the kayak went over and turned upside down, and you were underwater for how long?
I was pinned at the bottom of a waterfall underneath the water for up to 30 minutes. It's a long time.
That's a
Too long to still be alive.
And as a doctor, you logically see all of that too. You know, I mean, it's amazing. Now, you died.
Well, I was without oxygen for a long time, but I am here talking to you, so I...
Well, yes, you did. But when I say that you had that death experience, your spirit left your body. You had an out-of-body experience.
Absolutely.
You literally died for a while and then came back, right?
I did. And I had always feared a drowning death. But during my death, I felt no fear. I felt wonderful. Once I gave my life over to God and asked that God's will be done and meant it, I was held and comforted and reassured that everything would be fine, regardless of whether I lived or died. And I did feel my spirit leave my body as the current slowly sucked my body out of the boat. And I rose up and out of the river and was immediately greeted by a group of beings, spirits, angels. I'm never really quite sure what to call them because...
Did they look like you?
They had physical form. They did have a head and arms and legs. And I knew that I'd known them for as long as I existed, and I knew that they had known me and loved me as long as I had existed. But it's a funny thing because, of course, now I wish I had taken notes and said, okay, now who are you? But at the time, it didn't matter because they were taking me down this exceptionally beautiful path toward this great dome structure that was exploding with not only beauty, absolute, pure love of God. And I knew that that was essentially the point of no return. That was the entrance to heaven, God's kingdom, whatever you want to call it. And I could hardly wait to get there.
Really?
I could see my body. I could see the guys doing CPR. I had no desire to return, and I had this absolute sense of being home, of being where not only I really belong, but where we all really belong. And so I didn't want to take the time to figure out, okay, who are these people? They were taking me, and I thought, well, okay, we'll have plenty of time to catch up later.
Yeah.
I want to get down the path as quickly as I can.
You know, when you read different experiences that people have, that's the common thing, is that, wow, the feeling is amazing and I don't want to go back.
Yes, at this point have talked to so many people and no one wants to come back.
Yeah. What sent you back?
Well, my kids would say that I was kicked out. but the reality is, when I finally did arrive at this entrance hall of sorts and was ready to just dive over the threshold, a sense of great disappointment sort of descended on everyone, and I was told that it wasn't my time, that I had more work to do and I had to go back to my body. So I refused.
You didn't want to come
Which
back.
I thought was reasonable. I didn't want to come back, and that's really one of the reasons why I didn't talk about it for many years, because I didn't want my kids to understand that or hear that out of context.
Now, you were told that there was a reason that you had to come back, right?
Yes, I was given some information about a number of reasons. I was really given a mandate to share my story with others, and I was also given information about my expected response and behavior at the time that my oldest son would be killed. And so...
How did you want to come back, knowing that your child's life You were told that he was going to die?
Yes.
And how old was your child at this time?
At the time he was 10.
And you were told what age he would die?
No, I was not told the details
Okay.
in terms of the exact when or where or how. When my son was very young, 4 or 5, he had told me actually that he wouldn't live until his 18th birthday. And
Really?
when he told me that when he was young, the way he said it to me pierced me. And the way he said it made me feel like it was something real. And so when I was told about his death, when I was sent back to my body, it didn't come as a surprise. It was something that I almost expected.
Do you think God gives you those intuitive feelings to prepare you?
I would say that for me it wasn't an intuitive feeling. It was an absolute sense of knowing.
And your son did pass away.
He did. He was hit by a car. And when that happened, I, of course, spent those 10 years in between my experience and his death, hoping that the plan for his life would change, but having an absolute trust in the promises of God to know that if the plan didn't change, then there would be great beauty, not only in his life, but great beauty in his death.
To have that knowledge, Mary, does it make it easier somehow?
The knowledge doesn't make it easier because I loved him. I still love him. I miss him. But what does make a difference is having had my experiences, I no longer had faith. My faith had made this transformation into a complete trust in the promises of God. I knew that...
You moved from believing to knowing.
Absolutely. And knowing that there really is life after death. Knowing that God loves us completely and unconditionally and truly does have a plan for our future that's one of beauty, allows me to not only face my daily life and challenges we all face, but face big things like the death of my son with an absolute confidence that his life and his death is part of God's plan for this world. And there is great beauty.
Time is man's clock, it's not God's clock.
Absolutely.
And he does have a time for everything, even though it's difficult. Is that your story? Is that your purpose in telling and sharing that story?
The mandate in sharing my story with others is, yes, to help them seek a relationship with God, but more importantly is through that relationship recognize that we don't need more proof. There's plenty of proof. There is life after death, which profoundly changes the way we approach every day, every moment, every human interaction, because it is part of this incredibly beautiful plan, even though we can't usually see the beauty.
If I didn't know that, life would be very difficult. But I know I'll see my parents again. I know I'll see my son again. I can't imagine a God that wouldn't allow us to see the people we love again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For sharing your story. For more information on Dr. Neal's book, go to our website. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be right back.